Good morning, Scotland. Good morning, social media land. I hope you are well. It is Tuesday, the 25th of March, 2025. There is something happening in the background of the independence movement, and it's not coming from politicians or party conferences. It's coming from the people, from ordinary Scots who've had enough of waiting and are doing something about it now. You might have heard the names Salvo and Liberation Scot starting to pop up here and there. They've been around for a while, but they're more prevalent now. Maybe you've seen them mentioned in social media or at a local event. Maybe you've not heard of them at all. But what they're doing could end up being one of the most important things that has happened in Scotland's long struggle for self-determination. Salvo and Liberation Scotland are part of the same movement, but they each play a different role. Salvo is the public face of the campaigners, the educators, the ones who are hosting talks and getting folk involved. Think of them as the grassroots engine of this whole thing. Liberation Scotland, on the other hand, is the legal and diplomatic side. They are the ones building the case for Scotland on the world stage, working with international experts, lawyers, and human rights organisations. Crucially, neither of them are political parties. They're not trying to win votes, and they're not tied to Holyrood or Westminster. They are trying to bring the power back to the people, and they believe Scotland's right to self-determination doesn't need permission from Westminster to exist. This didn't just appear overnight. Salvo was formed in 2022, not long after the Supreme Court ruling that said Holyrood didn't have the legal authority to hold a referendum. They started digging into Scotland's constitutional history, into international law, and into the question, do we really need permission from Westminster to decide our own future? What they found shocked a lot of people, and it formed the basis of everything that they're doing now. Out of that research came Liberation Scotland, the part of the movement focused on taking Scotland's case to the United Nations. Their argument is simple. Scotland isn't just politically stuck, it's been denied its rights for centuries, and it's time the world knew. Of course, any group that challenges the status quo is going to get a few stones thrown at them. Some people in the independence movement aren't sure about calling Scotland a colony. Others say it's too bold, too legally complicated, and unionists naturally have dismissed the whole thing as fringe nonsense. But what Salvo and Liberation Scotland are doing is grounded in law, history, and a clear sense of purpose. They are not shouting into the void here. They're building something real, and they've attracted support from thousands of ordinary Scots who are tired of political dead ends and want something new. It's also worth saying Salvo is clear that they're not here to bash political parties or take sides. They focus on the people, not party lines. They're also proudly non-discriminatory and have made it clear that racism and gender politics and division of any sort have no place in their movement. At the heart, Salvo and Liberation Scot believe in popular sovereignty, and the people of Scotland are their ultimate authority, not politicians, monarchs, or foreign governments. They want to restore Scotland's ancient constitution, which, by the way, has not disappeared. It's just been buried over time. They argue that the Claim of Right Act 1689 is a key part to Scotland's constitutional foundation, and it is still valid, and it gives the people the right to hold the government to account, and even remove it when it fails. They believe in fairness, in justice, in Scotland, where the government serves the people and not the other way around. A country where no one goes hungry, where the land and resources are used for the benefit of all of the people in Scotland, and where the powerful are kept in check by the people themselves. Their goals are simple, but ambitious. They want to educate Scots about their own constitutional rights, especially the forgotten parts Westminster would rather stay buried. They want to build a people-led movement around the Edinburgh Proclamation, a declaration that Scots have the sovereign right to choose their future. And most importantly, they want to get international recognition of Scotland's right to self-determination through the United Nations. They are not waiting for another vote that may or may not happen. They are not playing party games. They're saying, we already have the right. Let's assert it. And here's where it gets big. On the 7th of March 2025, Liberation Scotland submitted advance notice of petition to the United Nations Special Committee on Decolonisation, also known as C24. The aim? To have Scotland recognised as a non-self-governing territory under international law. In plain English, to have Scotland officially recognised as a colony still governed from elsewhere. That might sound strange. After all, Scotland has its own government, right? Liberation Scotland's argument is rooted in law and history. They are saying that the 1707 Union wasn't truly voluntary. It was the result of coercion, bribery, and threats. They say Scotland has never had full self-governance since that day, despite what politicians claim. They point out that the UK government has blocked Scotland's democratic mandates time and time again, ignoring votes, denying referendums, and refusing to listen. According to United Nations Resolution 1514 and 1541, that qualifies Scotland as being under colonial rule. And here's the important bit. If the UN recognises Scotland as a non-self-governing territory, Scotland would have the legal right to decolonisation, the same process that over 80 former colonies have gone through since 1945 to become independent countries. This wouldn't need a referendum agreed by Westminster. It wouldn't need negotiations with Downing Street. It would need a formal recognition that Scotland has the right to choose, and that right is protected in international law. This does not bring about our independence, but it ensures that we have the right to choose our own future. So for any naysayers that suggest Liberation Scotland has no authority to do what they are doing, understand this. They are fighting for you to have the right to choose your own country's future, something you truly do not have right now. It would also mean something else. Scotland would have the right to control its own natural resources, oil, gas, wind, water, all of it, under the sovereignty of the Scottish people. And that's even before we take the time to choose our own future. Imagine that, eh? Controlling all those things that are currently pirated away by Westminster, controlling them from Scotland to benefit Scots rather than the profit margin of some energy conglomerate. See, when that happens, Scotland will have visibility on its true wealth and no longer be told that it is too weak or too poor to stand on its own. No longer will the alleged public service deficit be used to bash Scotland with. Our wealth would remain here. This isn't a pipe dream, it's a legal pathway and it's already started. But here's the thing, Salvo and Liberation Scotland aren't asking for your money. They're not asking for your vote. They're asking you to share, they're asking you to learn, and they're asking you to think about what sovereignty really means. They're building a movement from the ground up, not for politicians, but for people. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we need right now. No more waiting, no more begging, just a quiet, determined return to something Scotland has never really lost, its right to choose. So if you ever thought there must be another way, maybe this is it. Maybe it's time we stopped asking permission and started standing up for what is ours already. Salvo and Liberation Scotland. Doing something that the politicians can't do. Go and support them. Go to their websites. The links are in the description of this video. And have a great Tuesday.